you know, lecturing. So if anyone wants to jump in, at any point and ask questions, feel free. I'm not going to give you a whole PowerPoint. At times, I'll share my screen so I talk about things, but really that's going to be it. So my name's Jackson. I'm here with Lauren, and like I said, we're going to look at these three steps to paying for the semester, talk a little bit about funding options, right, and try to get you basically squared away done having to deal with all that crap, right? Semester's coming up. So get you started here. So why don't I just share like the 2-minute version of kind of studentfi.org, who we are, what we do. So like I said, my name's Jackson. I'm the CEO of studentfi.org. And so it started out a few years ago. I had just worked as a financial advisor. My best friend Jordan was working actually in investment banking on Wall Street, and he got his first student loan repayment notice, right? And he actually called me to ask me kind of what do I do, how do I deal with this, right? Because that's a lot of money, and I honestly just didn't know what to tell him. I was like the finance kind of guy in our group, but I just didn't know. And then a few weeks later, one of our friends actually came to us and said she missed her first monthly payment, right? She's freaking out. They were calling her, right, and she just didn't know what to do, and we felt defeated, right? Because obviously there's the just want to have her say help people save money, kind of show off that we know the stuff about finance, right? But we honestly, I felt kind of insecure or kind of scared that these really important financial questions, but we just didn't really know how to answer them, right? And it was tough. But that's kind of when everything started to change, right? Because we started to think, well, we can use resources to educate ourselves and really empower ourselves to understand these financial questions. And we can also, share that with others and help others. And so we actually decided to found StudentFi.org, right, which is a free platform of content, tools, and advice to help people pay for school. And that was kind of just the start of the challenge, right? Because those then, well, how do we help people, right? There's so many options, right? And so we've really focused a lot on trying to come up with solutions, strategies, and resources for people no matter where they're at. So if you're a high school student going into college, if you're in repayment refinancing, or maybe you're a parent, because in a lot of cases, right, parents are like, oh, I graduated 20 years ago and you thought you were done. But that's not the case, right? A lot of times you're the one dealing with these financial things. So, we're really excited. And in the last few months, we've had, thousands of visitors come through the site. We're a very new company. We've processed several different refinancing, all these different things, right, and really starting to have an impact. So I'm excited, and it's great to be here with all these folks. Over almost 100 people reserved a spot for this info session, so I'm very proud of that. But anyway, Lauren, what do you want to tell a little bit about just kind of your background and LendKey and everything?
Sure, yeah. So, hi everybody. My name is Lauren and I work for LendKey. I'm on their business development team and I've been with the company for going on 2.5 years now, actually. And basically, what I do there is I manage our partnerships. So, I get to work with awesome people like Jackson and StudentFi and help educate borrowers how to pay for their education. So, a little bit about LendKey in case you guys aren't too familiar. The company's been around for just a bit over 10 years. And what's unique about LendKey is we work with credit unions and community banks to provide low rate private student loans. And we also do student loan refinancing. I know Jackson touched on that they do help with refinancing as well. And I know for the purposes of today, we won't go too in depth with that. But if there are, like Jackson said, any parents online who are still paying off their student loans and you haven't refinanced, that's a great thing to look into. But anyway, like I said, we partner with credit unions and local community banks. We have a network of about 300 different lending partners. So we're not a lender ourselves. But what's unique about these partnerships with the credit unions that are the lenders is they're mostly not for profit. Credit unions are not for profit. And that allows them to pass their savings back to the borrower in the form of low interest rates because they're not really spending money on a lot of other things. They don't have extravagant marketing budgets. You probably haven't really seen many credit union commercials unless it was like Navy Federal or some of the big name ones, who actually is one of our partners. So that's one of the things that's really nice about those relationships. And we love the mission of credit unions. It aligns really well with LendKey's mission, which is improving lives with lending made simple. So we basically provide that online platform, entire application process to connect you with this network of partner lenders. And we make it really easy for you guys. Like I said, the entire application process is online. It's really quick. You can complete it in 10 minutes or less. We also have really dedicated customer care team, and we do service the loans for the life of the loan. So like I mentioned, we're not a lender ourselves, but we do service that loan. So from the day you come to lendkey.com and take out your application to the day you pay off your loan, we service it the entire time. You're talking to our team. We really care and we really have your back through this process.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren. And let's kind of jump into it, right? Because like I said, part of our mission is it's going to be really this financial education, financial empowerment. So, as advertised, right, we want to talk to you a little about kind of our three-step system that we use to pay for the semester and pay for college. So let me share my screen real quick. And again, we're not going to go full slideshow here because, no one really no one really wants that, but a few of these things just to follow along, right? Okay, info session. And then, so like I said, there's gonna be three really simple steps, and it's a simple strategy to pay for the semester, to pay for college. But a lot of times we get stressed, we get overcomplicated, we don't know what to do. And a lot of times it's really simple. Okay, calm that tail, just take 3 steps, easy, right? Okay, so the first one we always say is free money. And really what that refers to are scholarships and grants. So a lot of people don't know the difference. Really, it just tends to be grants are often needs based. So they're based you or your child's or your total family's financial demographics, whereas scholarships are a lot of times more performance based. So maybe it's academic, athletic, or even a lot of times it could be there's tons of companies and scholarship databases where you can fill out an essay or fill out a few questions and actually get a chance to win a scholarship. So first option should always be that scholarships and grants, and to access those, there's a ton of very useful scholarship databases out there. So if you go to StudentFi's alternatives page, you can find some there. You can honestly just Google has a really good scholarship database, and then it's like all of them, right? So there's that, and then you can also have your child or you contact your university's scholarships office, or if it's a smaller school, sometimes it'll be the financial aid office or the student services office. So that's going to be the first step, right? The second step we always say is federal money. And what that means is kind of the FAFSA, right? And so a lot of people don't know that in the spring semester, if your circumstances have changed, you can actually reapply for FAFSA. So it's not just a once per year thing, right? But that application is how you get access to federal financial aid, federal loan options, right? And the reason that we still put that number 2 ahead of some of those private options is because typically, probably 99% of the time, you're going to get a better interest rate on your federal loans. A lot of them are subsidized, which means that they're going to be paying that you won't have to pay the interest while the student is in school. And they also have a lot more kind of borrower benefits programs, things like for certain careers that could be loan forgiveness, a lot of private companies may not have. So that's gonna be number 2. Like I said, go ahead and if things have changed at all, reapply for FAFSA, see what you can get, and really lean on those kind of financial aid awards. And then number 3, that's going to take us to private money. So that's when I talk about private companies who offer funding, right? So mainly student loans, and there's a few alternatives to traditional student loans as well, which I always like to touch on with people, right? So we know the basics of what a private student loan is, right? I mean, it's just you borrow money right now at a fixed interest rate and pay it back. Some alternatives to student loans that some people aren't as familiar with. I said scholarships and grants. Another one is peer-to-peer and crowdfunding. So that's not by any means common, but there are a few case studies where, people have started Kickstarter campaigns or done peer-to-peer kind of lending, around their college costs and actually managed to pay it off. So that's another option. Another option we're going to say that's kind of an alternative to a traditional student loan. One of our partners does this that they'll actually do rate negotiation with group discounting on student loans. And again, they're not, it's sometimes tough with them because you can't just go apply and get one right now, right? But yeah, that's an option for kind of a non-traditional route. And then final one that we always talk about as an alternative, again, because we want to share all this, all the different options with you guys, is something called an educational investment. So if you think about a loan is borrowing an amount of money right now that you have to pay back at a set kind of fixed interest rate. Educational investment, also known as an ISA, a company invests in your education right now for a small share of what you make in the future. So you think about you investors out there, right? You can, get a bond, right, that pays you fixed amount every year, right? Or you can invest in a company so when it does well, you get a part of that. And that's the idea of an educational investment. But for today, right, we're going to focus on how to kind of save money and find the right, student loan if that's what you need. And so a few of the key things that I'll touch on before I, pass it off to Lauren. Right, so the key terms, just kind of understanding a student loan, right? Get your interest rate, duration, the principal or the loan amount, and then all the other terms that go into it. So you want to review those terms, but then those other three, figures, right? The interest rate, term, and amount. That really just determines the financial profile of the loan of what's my monthly payment going to be, how long to take it back, all those good things. And what I tell people is to think like an investor. So, ultimately, when you think about, my friends will ask me, well, should I get a student loan? I really think the key to think about is it depends. It's like an investment, right? So you're borrowing money now to get an education, which increases your future earning potential down the line, right? So that's why I think it's important to be responsible and to think strategically. And for you parents, out there, that can be sometimes a difficult conversation with your child, but ultimately that's kind of the nature of student loans and the financial sides. We have to think like investors about this, right? So is it worth it right now to potentially make more later with my degree? One common question I get too is that you work through the application then is, well, how much should I request? And to give you an idea, here's how you'll calculate that when you get into it is, okay, so you got your cost of your college or university, right? EFC, that's your expected family contribution that when you do the FAFSA, right, I'm going to get back. That's how much that, you parents, right, or your parents are expected to kind of contribute to the cost of college, right? So you take that away from the cost. And then the financial aid award, right, that's what you get from the federal options, right? So it could be, scholarships and grants, could be the federal loans, right? But that's also money that goes towards that original cost of college. But then whatever you get left over, right, that ultimately is the amount that you would request or you need funded. Okay, so that's kind of just give you a baseline when you're going through that, thinking about it, maybe it's only a few $1,000s, right? But that's kind of how you can run those numbers real quick to see if it's get funding. And then finally, kind of the question I get is, too, well, if you're, StudentFi, one of our core values is to end the student debt sentence, right? So why would you partner with a student loan company? And that's because, right, like Lauren touched on, they have this network of, over 300 credit unions, a lot of which are nonprofits. And so, I think they're really valuable in actually saving you money, right? Ultimately, because there are times when people do need student loans, and so you want to have this, service that gets you the best rate possible, save you time, save you money, make it easy, get it done online, and so that's why they're one of the few companies that we do work with in this area. So that's going to be it, right? The recap: the 3-step system. When you're in the semester, you remember free money, federal money, private money. That's it. and it's going to be easy. So I'm going to hand this off to Lauren in a second. I just want to make sure that her.
I'm good now.
Um,
Thank you.
okay,
I had muted
sweet.
myself and it locked me from from re-unmuting, so that was good. Okay. So Jackson kind of went through some of the basics, in terms of the process. First, I'll reiterate again, check your free money, check out your FAFSA, fill that out, and take your federal loans first. But something that's different from federal loans versus private loans is federal loans may not cover your full cost of attendance. There are actually capped limits, and that's kind of when you're going to need to come to somebody like LendKey or just any private student loan lender, is to sort of fill that gap. For example, say I'm just throwing out numbers, you need $20,000, but you're only able to get a loan for 15. You can come to a private student lender and get that additional 5K. So that's kind of why we're number 3 in the process, because you really want to get the free money, take advantage of federal student loans. And then if you need additional funding, private student loans are an excellent option for you. In case private student loans are new to some of you, I just wanted to go through some key points about them. They are obtained, this is going to sound super obvious, but through private financial institutions like credit unions and banks, whereas federal student loans are obtained through the government. Some other differences is a couple of you, could you guys go on mute? Anybody who's a participant, there's a little bit of background noise. Thank you. A couple other differences is there is a credit check required to take out a private student loan, whereas for your federal student loans, there's no credit history necessary. So with a private student loan, you may want to explore, chatting with a cosigner. So a cosigner is basically somebody else who's going to be on the loan with you to basically certify that you're good for this money when you start paying it back one day. I would say about 90% plus end up taking out a private student loan with a cosigner. So that is something that's going to be important so you can obtain the best rate possible. Another difference for private student loans is we offer fixed and variable rates. So fixed rates for your federal student loans are set in place by Congress and they don't change for the life of the loan. So you're going to have that exact same rate all the years of your loan payback. For private student loans, you can choose between a fixed and a variable rate. Variable rates can change yearly. They may not change that frequently, but I would say at least yearly. There will be some slight variance to it as they sort of change with the market, and these rates are set in place by these lenders. The other thing is there's no federal benefits with private student loans. With programs like FAFSA, you do get access to things like income-based repayment, student loan forgiveness, deferred payments. I'm sure Jackson can talk to you guys about those terms, after hours, or if you guys have additional questions on those, just sort of in understanding the process. But that is something that comes with federal benefits and doesn't come with private student loans. And then, as I already mentioned, what's nice about private student loans is you can borrow up to the full cost of attendance. So there's not going to be any gaps for you. We're going to be able to fill every gap for you because we don't have any capped limits. So I'm sorry if I just talked your guys' ears off, but that's just a little bit about private student loans. And then just moving on to the next slide, just to talk you guys through a little bit about LendKey, when to see us and what our process is going to look like for you. Are you able to switch to the next? Oh, no, you did. Thanks, Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've mentioned like 5 times now, come to a place like LendKey or a private lender when you need additional funding. So make sure you've exhausted any scholarships and grants, fill out your FAFSA, see what federal aid you qualify for, and then you can come to LendKey. As I mentioned, we partner with 300 credit unions and banks, so this gives you access to quite a bit of choice. So you're able to come on our website, enter your details, and we're going to do the work for you on the back end and decide which of our lending partners is going to be the best match for you, is going to get you the best loan dependent on your school, dependent on your state, and any unique circumstances. So while again, we are not the lender, we are going to service that loan for the life of the loan. So that's something that's nice. A couple requirements and things to know before you think about starting to apply for private student loans. You do need to be enrolled half-time in a degree granting program from a Title IV approved school. This is pretty much the exact same thing you're going to see with your FAFSA, so that's not too different. This is available for undergraduate and graduate school loans, so I'm not sure where everyone here is at in their education journey, but you can take out a graduate school student loan as well through us. You must also be a US citizen or a permanent resident. Again, as I mentioned, a cosigner is really going to help you guys out. like I said, 90% plus use a cosigner. So that is something that's going to help you. And I would almost list that as a requirement to apply. And then the last thing is you don't have to start paying back until 6 months after graduation. So we do give you that 6 month grace period. What I will say about making payments is if you can make any payments while you're in school, this does help. What it's going to help you guys do, one, you're just going to establish healthy financial habits, right? You're going to be making monthly payments. This is pretty similar to what life is going to look like once you graduate. It's also going to help you establish credit, which is nice because once you graduate, you may need to take out a car loan, or maybe you do need to do student loan refinancing. You want to get a lower rate and consolidate your loans. You're going to want to have some established credit. So that's just something to think about. Again, it's not necessary, but I do like to mention it because I think it's helpful for people to start building those habits while they're in school, if they can, of course. And then, okay, if you're ready to apply, kind of what now? Well, our application process, like I said, is all online. It's really quick. It's pretty easy to go through. I recommend applying about 1 month prior to when your funds are due, or even earlier. All student loans have to go through a certification process, so it's good to just sort of give yourself a little bit of cushion and allow time for that certification process. Um, and then in terms of the application, you just need to know what school you're attending, the academic period you're applying for, the loan amount you're going to be requesting. You'll need your social security number, that cosigner contact information if you are applying with a cosigner, which I recommend again. And just note about the cosigner is they can be released from your loan later on. So for private student loans, if you make on-time payments for 2 years, after you graduate, when you start making those payments back, they can be released. So they're not going to have to be on your loan for the life of your loan because by this point, they might want to hop off it or you might want to just take on that financial independence without the cosigner. So you do have that option. Something else that's nice is if you do set up those automatic payments after you graduate, we give you a further rate reduction. So you get a 0.25% rate reduction. And I know that sounds small, but trust me, every dollar adds up when you're taking out a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year student loan. Anything you can save is really going to help you guys out. And the last thing I would encourage everyone to do is to figure out what your payments are going to look like after you graduate. I've found in working at LendKey, that's one of the biggest gaps in education that students don't get is they don't understand exactly what they're going to be paying back after they've graduated. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind for, their 4 years or so. And it's really good to know what you're going to be getting into after you graduate. So on our website, and whether or not you take out a loan with LendKey, I encourage you to do this, but LendKey.com, if you go to our resources section, we have a student loan calculator. So you can enter what your loan is, what your interest rate is, how long the term is going to be, and get an idea of what those monthly payments are going to look like. And it'll really help you set up a nice budget for yourself for after you graduate. So those are just some things that, I would recommend that everybody check out. And we also have a lot of other educational resources on our website, more articles about understanding private student loans, really deciding if it's going to be the right option for you. So yeah, that's just a little bit about LendKey and happy to answer any questions, myself and Jackson, that you guys might have.
Yeah, we do. We did leave a kind of in our, blocked out here 5 or 10 minutes. If there are any questions, and I need to make sure that I think you guys should be able to unmute yourselves if you do have a question. So let me just make sure of that. I'll say I can unmute all of you anyway in case anyone does. But if not, we'll wrap up here and
I should also mention there's no application fees or anything to apply. It's completely free to fill out a private student loan application.
Sweet. All right. Well, anyone has any questions? I'm just going back onto this last screen here. Well, so I just want to, kind of obviously, thank you all for being here, but really say that, I'm actually, I think if you're, still with us or still watching the recording, later on, right, that, congratulations, right, for still being here because like I said, part of our mission, is really kind of financial education. So we don't want to say, oh, here, take a loan or go get a scholarship or whatever. Really feel confident and feel knowledgeable about these really important financial questions. So um, can I just throw out before we wrap up actually two final numbers here. So one is $150 per hour, and another is $1,440 per hour. And at this point, we're like, do I have to pay that? No, you don't. But when I say that first number, 140 an hour, that's on average range, right? What kind of a financial advisor, a CPA, or a college admissions coach they're going to charge you, right? So we're here and we're going to be here, StudentFi and the folks at LendKey throughout this process. If you have questions, you can reach out to me and we'll have support for you. And I say that because that's free, right? So I think that having that compared to what you typically pay for, the ability to have those questions answered is incredibly valuable, right? So we encourage you to take advantage of that. That second number I said, $1,400. What that represents is the difference between a 6% and 7% interest rate on a $10,000 20-year student loan, which is pretty standard range, right? So you probably think, well, 6 or 7, it's not a big deal. Why do they got to compare it through all these different lenders? If that 1% difference, like I said, almost $1,500. So pretty important. So that's pretty much it, right? So what you're going to get, right? We're going to put together a special kind of offer here. We worked with the team at LendKey to put together the custom invitation with an easy online application and support from the StudentFi team throughout this process, right? So, if you do apply through this link, you're going to get that support from us. You're going to get this dedicated customer care team from LendKey. You're going to get the best rate from over 300 credit unions. You're not going to get any payments until 6 months after graduation. And finally, LendKey offers a lot of support beyond student loans. So there's things like professional development resources, kind of credit and personal finance resources, and more. So get started. Don't push it off any longer if you need it for the spring semester, right? I will stay around for a few minutes as well to answer any questions, or if you click through the link and you start the application and you have questions, I'll be here. And otherwise, too, like I said, I'll follow up with an email and you can contact us at any time at StudentFi, right? And we'll help you through this process. So Lauren, if you have anything to add, feel free. But otherwise, just thank everyone for being here and for watching. We will send out this recording again as well, so you have everything kind of in one place.
Yeah, and thanks, Jackson, for hosting me and letting me chat with you all tonight. I hope you guys learned something. And yeah, like Jackson said, if you need help walking through the app process, really lean on him and the team at StudentFi. It's kind of awesome that he's going to, really sit on the phone with you guys and walk you through the application process. I can imagine how immensely helpful that would be, and not a lot of places will give you that kind of support. So definitely take advantage of that. Even if you think you've got everything under control, it's really just nice to know that you have that support in place. And also, if you are on, the application page or you have any questions, you can also, pick up the phone and call LendKey's customer care team. We're open pretty late. They're happy to walk through the process with you as well and help with anything that you need. And yeah, as Jackson said, feel free to just type in that bit.ly link, and that'll be the special StudentFi landing page. And he'll be able to know, who started an application, so that he can keep track of you guys through the process if you need any help. And yeah, if nobody has any other questions, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and good luck with the coming semester and, taking care of your student loans. And yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks.
All right. Bye, Jackson. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Bye-bye. Can you hear me, Tiffany? If you can, so thanks for sticking on. So I would estimate probably um, got it. Yeah, to do the application, right, is going to be probably 15 minutes if you have that information in front of you. But you may need to start the online application, pause it, come back, just because you'll need some information on things like some of your financial stuff, so like the cost of school, right? Some information if you have a cosigner, some of the stuff. So again, you may need to like pause and just go grab some of that. But if you kind of have that stuff available, you check and say like, hey, here's my cost of school, like here's my requested loan amount, and like probably 10 or 15 minutes. And then um, in terms of like how long it takes the loan to disperse. Um, that also depends a little bit. If you're, kind of coming up on the semester, that you can usually get it done fairly quickly, but I'd say it's good to leave, a month and a half or something to actually get the funds in your account.